The song, Lump by the Presidents of the United States of America, is more than just a catchy, grunge-inspired track from the 90s. Beneath its surface of absurd humor and strange imagery lies a surprisingly profound reflection on human existence, agency, and the forces that shape our lives. Through the lens of philosophical analysis, the character of Lump reveals herself as a figure caught between passivity and action, stasis and possibility. What follows is an exploration of Lump as a philosophical text, using the structure of triads to delve into the existential lessons Lump teaches us about the human condition.
The paradox of being stuck.
Lump sat alone in a boggy marsh, totally emotionless except for her heart.
Lump's existence in a marsh, immobilized and emotionless except for her heart, evokes an immediate sense of paradox. How can one be motionless and yet alive, stuck but still beating with life? Philosophically, this is the essence of coexistence. Lump embodies the contradictory elements that can inhabit a single life. She is both alive and seemingly dead, both present and absent. The marsh, a literal representation of being stuck, serves as a metaphor for life's often contradictory conditions. The existential lesson here is that we often find ourselves in states of limbo, where opposing forces, movement and stillness, vitality and stagnation, coexist in a delicate balance. Yet, this paradox also suggests a state of equilibrium, where Lump's condition is not merely coexistence but a balance of forces that maintain her stasis. There's a philosophical implication here, reminiscent of determinism. Lump's inability to act is the result of forces, both internal and external, that neutralize each other, creating a perfect state of inertia. As she lies motionless, we're reminded of how we too can feel trapped in circumstances that seem beyond our control, stuck in an equilibrium that resists change.
The self-perpetuating cycle.
She might be dead, or she's in my head.
Lump's passive state is not just a momentary condition. It's a self-reinforcing cycle. Reinforcement describes how Lump's internal passivity feeds into her external reality, which in turn reinforces her passivity. Like many of us, Lump is caught in a cycle where her mental state, she might be dead, perpetuates her physical inaction. The absurdity of her condition, lingering in a bog without escape, reflects the way our thoughts can shape our reality, trapping us in loops of inertia. Philosophically, this touches on the idea of phenomenology, where the way we perceive ourselves and the world creates our lived experience. On the other hand, Lump's state can also be seen as a feedback loop of negative influences. Her inability to act or think outside of her current situation creates a loop where each negative thought or passive inaction reinforces the next, reflecting existential inertia. Lump is the embodiment of bad faith, a concept from Sartre, where individuals convince themselves they are powerless to change, allowing their circumstances to define them. The humorous image of Lump sitting in the bog doing nothing becomes a poignant symbol of how easy it is to become trapped in feedback loops of inaction.
Stuck in a timeless loop.
Lump lingered last in line for brains, and the one she got was sort of rotten and insane.
Lump's current state is the product of past conditions. The lyrics suggest that Lump's inertia is causally linked to her past. Her rotten and insane brain represents a history of poor choices or unfortunate circumstances. Causal reasoning here implies that Lump's current situation is a natural outcome of prior causes, mental, environmental, or otherwise. Lump's mind and body have been shaped by external forces, echoing determinism, the idea that every effect has a preceding cause. In this sense, Lump's inertia isn't surprising. It's the logical result of a life shaped by conditions outside her control. However, reversion suggests that Lump's life is not progressing in any meaningful way. She is stuck in a cyclical pattern where, instead of moving forward, she reverts to a more basic, inert state. Lump's condition reflects eternal recurrence, a concept Nietzsche famously explored. Her existence, devoid of movement or change, seems to repeat without progression. This reversion to a primordial stasis poses the philosophical question: are we condemned to repeat the same patterns, or can we break free of our cycles of inertia?
Time is a flat marsh.
She's Lump. She's Lump. She's Lump. She's Lump. She's Lump. She's in my head.
Lump's condition defies linear narrative. Her life seems to exist outside of time, where nothing progresses, and each moment feels disconnected from the last. Non-linear existence, in Lump's case, suggests that her life doesn't follow a clear path from point A to point B. Instead, she is caught in a kind of timeless loop, where events and experiences don't progress but cycle back on themselves. This reflects postmodern thought, where traditional narratives are broken down and life is understood as fragmented and often absurd. At the same time, Lump's existence is inherently retrospective. We understand her current condition by looking backward. Her brain, rotten and insane, gives us insight into why she might be stuck. This echoes the existential idea that we define ourselves by our past choices, yet often those choices only become intelligible after the fact. Lump's inability to move forward is, in some sense, a result of her inability to reconcile her past with her present. It forces us to ask, how much of our current condition is shaped by the past, and how much freedom do we have to transcend it?
The absurdity of being Lump.
And she's lump, she's lump, she's lump. She's lump, she's lump.
Lump's life, despite its inertia, is oddly in harmonic balance with her surroundings. She is stuck in a marsh, but the marsh itself is a metaphor for her internal state. There is a strange harmony in the way her mind and environment reflect each other, evoking the Stoic idea that peace comes from aligning oneself with external conditions. Lump's stasis, while absurd, is also in sync with the absurdity of the world around her. Yet there is an underlying dissonance in Lump's existence. The fact that she is alive but inert, motionless yet thinking, reflects the existential dissonance Camus describes in the myth of Sisyphus. Lump is a figure of the absurd. Her situation is both meaningless and laughable, yet deeply tragic. The lyrics present Lump's condition humorously, but the dissonance between her potential for movement, she's alive, and her actual state, stuck in a bog, speaks to the broader absurdity of human existence. Life, like Lump, can often feel like a series of contradictions, full of potential but ultimately immobilized by forces we cannot control.
A metaphor for the human condition.
Lump, through her absurd existence, becomes a profound metaphor for the human condition. She teaches us about the complexities of stasis and movement, the reinforcing cycles of thought and action, and the ways we can become trapped in patterns of inertia. The humor of the song, with its strange images and catchy repetition, belies a deeper existential reflection. We are all, in some sense, Lump. Her story raises timeless philosophical questions. Are we free to act, or are we shaped by forces beyond our control? Is life a linear progression, or are we doomed to repeat the same cycles? How do we find meaning in an existence that often seems absurd? In the end, Lump may be in a bog, but she's in our heads too, forcing us to confront these existential dilemmas with a smile and a nod to the absurdity of it all.